The night Kevin died was the coldest night of my life, not because of the weather, but because of the silence that followed. My husband, my partner of 10 years, the father of our daughter Lily, collapsed in our kitchen from a sudden heart attack. One minute he was standing in front of the stove joking about how he finally learned how to make pasta the right way, and the next he was on the floor, his face pale, his chest unmoving. The ambulance came quickly, but not quickly enough. By the time we reached the hospital, it was too late. Kevin was gone. Just like that. 37 years old. No warning. No goodbye. I remember the surreal feeling as the doctor told me the news. I didn't cry right away. My body felt numb, as though the world had frozen. My brain couldn't compute the words. It was Lily's voice, trembling and confused, that broke the fog. "Where's Daddy?" I held her close and whispered something I don't even remember what. Maybe I lied. Maybe I told her he was sleeping. All I knew was that I needed to call someone. I needed my family. I dialed my parents' number with shaking hands. My mom answered after a few rings. I could hear music in the background, people laughing, a cake being served, Sophia's birthday party. Of course, my little sister was turning 28. She had always loved big, elaborate celebrations, the kind with themes and coordinated outfits and choreographed dances. Even as a grown woman, she treated her birthday like it was a national holiday. Through the chaos of the party, I tried to speak. My voice cracked. "Mom, Kevin, he's gone. He had a heart attack. I'm at the hospital with Lily and—" Before I could finish, my mom interrupted. "Emily, honey, I can't hear you. It's loud here. Can I call you back tomorrow?" I was stunned. "No, Mom, Kevin's dead." There was a brief pause. "What?" "Kevin died. Tonight. Just now." Her voice lowered slightly as though annoyed. "Emily, this really isn't the time. It's Sophia's birthday, and everyone's here. Can we talk in the morning?" Talk in the morning. My mother had just heard that her son-in-law died, her granddaughter's father, and she was brushing it off like a minor inconvenience. I don't even remember what I said next. I think I hung up. Or maybe she did. I sat there in the sterile hospital corridor, Lily clinging to me, asking questions I didn't know how to answer. And the one question that kept spinning in my head: why weren't they here? Not a single family member showed up that night. Not my parents. Not Sophia. Not my older brother. No one. It was just me and Lily and Kevin's lifeless body behind a closed door. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch with Lily curled up beside me, watching her chest rise and fall. I kept reaching over to touch her to make sure she was real, that she was breathing. My mind played tricks on me. Every shadow looked like Kevin. Every creak of the floor made me hope it was him walking back through the door. It never was. The next morning, my mom finally called back. "How are you holding up?" she asked, her tone flat, almost obligatory. I didn't respond right away. I think I expected some kind of apology or regret, or even a basic explanation, but none came. Instead, she began talking about how difficult it was to shift the mood at the party after my call. Sophia was upset. She felt like her birthday was ruined, she said, as if that was my fault. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My husband had died. My daughter had lost her father. And my family was more concerned about a ruined birthday cake. I started to realize something then, something I think I'd been ignoring for years. My family had never really seen me. Not the real me, not Emily the person. I was Emily, the older sister, the dependable one, the one who didn't ask for much. Sophia had always been the center of attention. Her feelings were prioritized, her problems magnified, her milestones celebrated like parades. And I was the background noise. It wasn't always obvious. My parents didn't scream or insult me, but they didn't listen either. They didn't show up. They didn't see me, not in moments of joy, and certainly not in moments of pain. Losing Kevin exposed that truth like a gaping wound. The following days were filled with logistical nightmares, arranging the funeral, explaining things to Lily, dealing with the paperwork, calling Kevin's relatives. Through it all, I kept waiting for my family to step up to prove me wrong. But they didn't. They came to the service, yes. They brought flowers and offered vague condolences. But they didn't ask how I was really doing. They didn't sit with me afterward. They didn't stay the night when I asked if someone could keep Lily company so I could cry in peace. Grief is lonely, but being abandoned in grief by the people who are supposed to love you, that's another kind of pain altogether. I remember sitting on my porch one evening days after the funeral holding a cup of tea that had gone cold. Lily was asleep inside, finally managing to rest without nightmares. I watched the sky darken, and for the first time I allowed myself to cry, not just for Kevin, but for the family I thought I had. For the people I hoped would hold me up, but who chose to look away. Kevin used to say, "When people show you who they are, believe them." I hadn't wanted to believe that my family could be so indifferent, but now I had no choice. That night, I decided to protect what was left of my world, Lily and myself. If my family couldn't show up when I needed them most, then they didn't get to be a part of our healing. They chose Sophia's birthday over my grief. I wouldn't let them choose again. Grief doesn't just hollow you out, it sharpens everything around you. Every word cuts deeper. Every silence echoes louder. After Kevin's death, I thought the worst was over. But what truly broke me wasn't losing my husband, it was realizing that my sister Sophia thought my pain was an act. A few days after the funeral, I finally worked up the courage to reach out to her. Maybe I was foolish, but a part of me still believed she'd come around, that the party had been an unfortunate timing issue, that she'd been shocked and didn't know how to respond. Maybe she'd say she was sorry that she missed Kevin too. So I called. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "Do you have a moment?" She sighed. "I'm actually heading out, but what's up?" It was like déjà vu. Her life always took priority: brunches, spa days, work dinners. I took a deep breath. I really need someone right now. I'm not okay. I've barely slept. Lily keeps asking when Kevin's coming back. And I stop, my voice cracking. I feel like I'm falling apart. There was a pause. Then she said something I'll never forget. "Emily, I think you need to calm down. You're being kind of dramatic." My heart dropped. I blinked, not sure I'd heard her right. "What did you say?" Sophia's tone didn't waver. "I get that you're grieving, but this constant emotional breakdown isn't healthy. Maybe you should see someone like a therapist or something." The condescension in her voice was unbearable. I had just buried the love of my life, and my own sister was telling me I was overreacting. "Sophia," I said, stunned. "My husband died. I watched him collapse in front of me. I'm raising our daughter alone, and you're telling me I'm being dramatic." "I'm just saying," she replied, "you've always been a little sensitive. Not everything has to be a tragedy." I hung up. I didn't scream. I didn't throw my phone. I just sat there on the floor, numb. I thought I had already felt the lowest point of grief. But this betrayal from the one person I thought would understand took the pain to an entirely different level. Sophia and I didn't speak for weeks after that. Every day I waited. I waited for an apology, a text, a sign that she regretted what she said. None came. Instead, she posted smiling photos of herself on Instagram, at a wine tasting at a beach resort, celebrating new beginnings. Not once did she check on me or Lily. When Lily started drawing pictures of our family, Kevin was always in them, sometimes with wings. She asked me one night, "Is Daddy an angel now?" I nodded, choking back tears. That same night, she whispered, "Is Aunt Sophia mad at you?" It hit me then my daughter was old enough to notice the absence, the silence, the rift. I wanted to shield Lily from the ugliness, but how do you protect a child from emotional abandonment? A few days later, I ran into my mom at the grocery store. She looked surprised to see me. "You've lost weight," she said. "Are you eating?" I gave her a weak smile, trying. She nodded awkwardly. "You know Sophia's really worried about you." I blinked. "Worried?" She called me dramatic and hasn't spoken to me in a month. My mom sighed, lowering her voice. You know how she is. She didn't mean it that way. She just thinks, you're making things harder than they need to be. I stared at her, heart pounding. Harder for who, Mom? For you, for Sophia. I'm the one burying my husband and raising a grieving child alone. And you're acting like I'm the inconvenience. People say grief shows you who your real friends are. I'd add grief shows you who your real family is, too. In the weeks that followed, I started leaning on Kevin's sister, Rachel. We'd never been especially close before, but she began calling every day. She brought groceries, helped with Lily, even offered to sit with me while I sorted out legal documents. She never once told me to get over it. She just showed up. One night over tea, she said, You know, Kevin always said you were the strongest person he knew. I started to cry. Not because of her words, but because she remembered something about him. Something about us. Something my own family hadn't even bothered to ask. That was the turning point. I stopped waiting for Sophia to apologize. I stopped checking my phone for messages that would never come. I stopped shrinking myself to make others comfortable with my pain. Instead, I focused on Lily. I gave her consistency, kindness, and space to talk about her dad. I joined a support group for young widows. I started journaling again, something I hadn't done in years. And slowly, very slowly, I began to rebuild. Not my old life. That was gone. But a new version, one where I was no longer surrounded by people who dismissed my feelings. One where I could be honest about my grief and still be seen as whole. Sophia and I didn't speak again until Lily's birthday. She showed up at the party late with a gift and her usual bright smile like nothing had happened. Hey sis, she said, leaning in to hug me. I stepped back. I think we should talk, she said, frowning. Now's not the time, I replied quietly, watching Lily blow out her candles. Later that night, Sophia texted me, You've changed. She was right. I had. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and your child is walk away from people who make your grief about them. After months of struggling with my sister's indifference, I thought I had hit rock bottom. But life has a way of surprising you with new lows, and sometimes those come dressed in the form of family. Sophia had always been ambitious, even back when we were kids. She was the one who pushed herself through university, snagged the high-paying job, and charmed our parents with her responsible adult persona. Me, I was the dreamer, the one who put love and family first. I never questioned her drive. I admired it from afar. But when the family business, our father's hotel chain, went through restructuring, everything changed. Dad had always trusted me to handle operations at the flagship hotel downtown. I'd worked there for years, building relationships with staff, vendors, and guests. I knew every room, every hallway, every problem that popped up. I'd poured my heart into the place, especially after Kevin passed. It was my anchor in a sea of chaos. Then the day Sophia returned from a business trip, all smiles and sharp suits, I knew something was up. I'm taking over, she announced during a family meeting. There was silence. Dad looked uneasy. Mom looked hopeful. I just felt a sinking feeling in my chest. Taking over, I asked. What do you mean? Sophia's eyes gleamed with a mix of pride and something colder, determination. I'm the new president of the chain. The board voted unanimously. I wanted to ask how I hadn't been consulted, why I was hearing this like a bystander, but I didn't. I stayed silent. Within days, I received an official letter from HR. My position was terminated, effective immediately. I read the letter twice, thinking it was a mistake. I called Sophia. Why, I demanded, my voice barely holding together. You're not the right fit anymore, she said. It's time for fresh leadership. Someone who can bring the chain into the future. Someone who could make me disappear. The humiliation stung worse than I expected. After everything, after Kevin's death, after all I'd done for the business, Sophia erased me with a single stroke. That night, I sat in my empty apartment, the silence pressing in. Lily was with a friend's family. I couldn't bear to see her confused and hurt by the news. I pulled out a photo album and stared at pictures of us as kids. Sophia's smile always seemed so perfect, too perfect. I remembered the party, the dismissal, the dramatic comment, and now this. Had I ever really mattered to her? Or was I just a stepping stone? The next morning, I told Mom what happened. She shook her head slowly. Sophia said it's for the best, that you're too emotional to run a business. Too emotional. The same line that echoed from Sophia's voice during those darkest days. But what broke me wasn't their words. It was the coldness in Dad's eyes when I asked for his support. I have to think about the family, he said quietly. Sophia's right. The business needs stability. That night, I called Rachel. You don't have to go through this alone, she said softly, and she was right. Rachel became my anchor in this storm, offering not just emotional support, but also practical help. She connected me with a lawyer to review the termination letter and helped me draft a response demanding a fair severance package. More than that, Rachel reminded me who I was beyond the hotel. You're not just an employee, she said one afternoon, her eyes fierce with conviction. You're a mother, a woman who survived more than most, and you're still standing. Her words lit a spark inside me. I began looking for new opportunities, something that would allow me to build a life on my own terms. It wasn't easy. The sting of betrayal lingered and every rejection felt personal. But I refused to give up. Lily watched me with wide eyes during this time. One evening, she tugged at my sleeve and said, "Mom, you're my hero." Her innocence and faith kept me moving forward. Months later, Sophia reached out tentatively, almost like she was testing the waters. "Can we talk?" she asked. I hesitated. The wounds were still fresh, but I owed it to myself to listen. We met at a quiet cafe. Sophia looked tired, softer somehow. "I'm sorry," she began. "I didn't handle things well. I was scared of losing control." I studied her carefully. "You were scared of losing control of what, the business, me?" She looked down. "Maybe both." For the first time, I saw vulnerability in her, a crack in her perfect armor. "I don't know if we can fix everything," I said honestly, "but I want to try for Lily's sake." Sophia nodded. That day marked the start of a new chapter. Not perfect, not without hurt, but real. I realized that family isn't always about shared blood or business titles. Sometimes it's about finding the strength to forgive and the courage to walk away when you must. Because even when the people closest to you fail, you have to hold on to yourself. Losing my job at the family hotel chain was like losing a part of myself. For years, that job had defined who I was, not just to others, but to me. It was more than just a paycheck or a position. It was the legacy my family had built, the anchor that kept me steady through storms. But when Sophia fired me, she didn't just take my job. She took away my certainty, my identity. At first, the days after my dismissal blurred together in a fog of disappointment and anger. I felt betrayed not only by Sophia, but by the entire family. I kept replaying the moment I received that letter, the cold words that stripped me of my role, and the look in Dad's eyes when I sought his support. It was a harsh reminder that sometimes blood ties are not enough to guarantee loyalty or understanding. But amid the heartache, a small voice inside me refused to be silenced. I owed it to myself and to Lily to keep moving forward. I couldn't afford to let this setback define me. The first step was acceptance. I had to stop fighting the reality of what had happened and start figuring out what I wanted next. Losing my position freed me from the shadow of the family business and the constant comparisons to Sophia. It was terrifying, but also strangely liberating. Rachel continued to be my rock during this time. She helped me see that my worth was not tied to a title or a legacy. I wasn't just the girl who worked at Dad's hotel. I was capable of so much more. One afternoon, Rachel and I sat down over coffee and brainstormed ideas for my next move. "What are you passionate about?" she asked. I hesitated. I had spent so long putting the business and Sophia's ambitions ahead of my own dreams that I'd almost forgotten what truly excited me. "I want to create a space where families feel welcome," I said slowly. "A place that's more than just a hotel. Somewhere people can make memories." Rachel nodded. "Sounds like you want to build something with heart?" Encouraged, I started researching the hospitality industry from a new angle. Boutique hotels, bed and breakfasts, vacation rentals, places with character, personality, and genuine care for guests. I realized that my strength wasn't just in managing operations, but in creating an atmosphere of warmth and connection. With some savings from the severance package Rachel negotiated, I began looking for properties. It wasn't easy. Real estate prices were high, and lenders were wary of someone without a steady job. But I was determined. Meanwhile, I took on freelance consulting work to keep income flowing. I advised small hotels on customer service and operational efficiency. These projects reminded me of why I loved this business in the first place, helping people have great experiences. At home, Lily was my inspiration. Watching her grow, laugh, and dream gave me a new perspective. I wanted her to know that setbacks don't have to be the end, they can be the beginning of something new. One chilly autumn morning, I found a small but charming inn for sale just outside the city. It wasn't fancy, but it had potential quaint rooms, a cozy dining area, and a lovely garden. I could see families gathering there, friends celebrating, couples escaping from the city's bustle. I called Rachel, breathless. "I think this is it." After careful inspections and negotiations, I made an offer. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of paperwork, renovations, and preparations. Every nail hammered and every curtain hung felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Opening day was nerve-wracking but exhilarating. I stood in the lobby of my new inn watching guests arrive, with smiles, children running through the garden, couples holding hands. It was more than a business, it was a dream realized. Word spread quickly, and soon my little inn became known for its friendly atmosphere and personal touch. Guests appreciated the warmth that came from someone who genuinely cared. I built a dedicated team who shared my vision, people who believed hospitality was about heart as much as profit. Sophia heard about the inn's success through family gossip and business news. I didn't reach out to her, but I wasn't bitter. I realized our paths were different. Where she sought power and control, I sought connection and authenticity. Most importantly, I found peace. The ache from being fired dulled as I focused on building something of my own. The hotel chain was my family's legacy, but this inn was mine. Looking back, being pushed out forced me to dig deep to rediscover who I was outside of my family's shadow. It was painful, but it was also a gift. And Lily, she now proudly tells her friends that her mom runs a magical inn where everyone feels at home. We're still healing from the past, and the scars will always be there. But we're moving forward, stronger, wiser, and more hopeful than ever. Because sometimes losing everything is just the beginning of truly finding yourself. As the months passed and my new inn flourished, I found myself wrestling with feelings I hadn't expected: resentment, sadness, but also a growing sense of forgiveness. The hurt from Sophia's betrayal didn't vanish overnight, and neither did the shock of how quickly my family had turned away from me. But the more I focused on healing and rebuilding, the more I realized that holding on to anger was only weighing me down. Forgiveness wasn't easy. For a long time, I thought forgiving Sophia meant excusing what she did, pretending it didn't hurt. But slowly, I came to understand that forgiveness was more about freeing myself. It was about releasing the grip of bitterness that threatened to consume me and choosing peace instead. One afternoon, Rachel and I took a walk through the garden of the inn. The late spring sun warmed the blooming flowers, and the gentle buzz of bees filled the air. It was one of those rare, quiet moments when my mind could finally settle. "I'm not sure I'll ever forget what Sophia did," I confessed, "but I want to stop feeling like I'm stuck in that moment." Rachel smiled gently. "Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's accepting what happened, learning from it, and deciding how you want to live moving forward." Her words stayed with me. I began journaling my thoughts and feelings every day, working through the complex emotions tied to family betrayal and loss. Writing helped me clarify my heart and made space for empathy, where once there had only been pain. In time, I found myself wanting to reach out to Sophia, not to reopen old wounds or to fight, but to try and understand her. Why had she done what she did? What was driving her actions? I sent a tentative message, simple and honest. I don't know if you want to talk, but I'm open to a conversation whenever you're ready. To my surprise, she replied. Our first conversation was awkward, filled with long pauses and cautious words. Sophia admitted she'd felt pressured to prove herself, to step out of Dad's shadow in a way that meant sidelining others, even me. She apologized, though carefully, as if afraid of losing face. I listened without interrupting. I didn't want to argue or rehash past mistakes. I just wanted to hear her, to understand. Over several months, we exchanged messages and met a few times. The road to rebuilding trust was slow and uncertain, but it was there. Sophia and I discovered we shared more common ground than I had thought: a desire to protect our family's legacy, fears of failure, and a longing for acceptance. While we would never erase the hurt completely, we found a new kind of relationship, one built on honesty, respect, and cautious hope. More importantly, I realized that forgiveness wasn't about fixing Sophia or forcing a perfect reunion. It was about healing myself, finding peace within, and allowing space for new beginnings, both with her and within my own life. In the meantime, my inn continued to grow. It became a place not just for guests, but for community. I hosted charity events, workshops, and local gatherings. People came to know the inn as a refuge of warmth, resilience, and kindness. Through it all, Lily thrived. She learned what it meant to overcome challenges with grace and to build a future on her own terms. Watching her blossom was a daily reminder that family isn't always defined by blood alone. It's defined by love, effort, and forgiveness. One evening, as I tucked Lily into bed, she looked up at me with those bright eyes and said, "Mom, I'm proud of you." Her words melted away years of doubt. I smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude, not just for her, but for the journey I'd taken. Losing my place in the family business had been devastating, but it had also been the catalyst for growth. I'd learned to stand on my own, to embrace change, and to forgive. And maybe most importantly, I'd learned that life's greatest legacies aren't just built by inheritance or titles, but by resilience, love, and the courage to move forward.